Captain Juan Park stood on the bridge of the UES Pathfinder, watching the stars streak by on the main view screen. This was humanity's first venture into deep space with their new experimental technology. The Pathfinder wasn't large, only 127 crew members, but it carried Earth's hopes for peaceful contact with alien civilizations. "Captain, we're approaching the border of Kirek space," said Navigation Officer Taehyun Kim. His fingers moved quickly across the holographic controls. "Their station will be visible in 3 minutes." Juan nodded. After 2 years in deep space, they had finally reached their destination. The Kyrex Dominion was known to the humans only through faint transmissions they had detected over the past 50 years. Earth's scientists had spent decades decoding the alien language, learning about a vast empire that spanned thousands of star systems. "All systems ready, Captain," reported Chief Engineer Suvin Yoon. "The gravitic drive is stable, and shields are at full capacity." Juan looked around at her crew. They were the best Earth had to offer. Scientists, explorers, and diplomats chosen for this historic mission. "Remember, everyone, we represent all of humanity today. Let's make a good first impression." The view screen changed to show a massive structure floating in space. The Kirex border station resembled a giant metal flower with 6 petals extending outward. Around it flew dozens of ships, each one larger than the Pathfinder. "That's a lot of patrol vessels," said Security Officer Minja Choi, his hand instinctively moving to the weapons console. "They're scanning us," reported Science Officer Hiren Kang. "Very intense scans. They're mapping our entire ship structure." Juan straightened her uniform. "Standard protocol. Let them look." "Captain," called Communications Officer Yoonho Lee, "we're receiving a transmission. They want to speak with us." She paused, listening through her earpiece. "They sound confused." "On screen," ordered Juan. The view screen flickered, and an alien face appeared. The Kyrex had scaled skin in shades of blue and green, with 4 eyes positioned in a diamond pattern. This one wore what appeared to be a ceremonial collar with glowing symbols. "This is Admiral Dacko of the Kyrex Dominion Border Defense," the alien said, its voice translated by the ship's computer. "Identify yourselves." Juan stepped forward. "I am Captain Juan Park of the United Earth ship Pathfinder. We come from Earth seeking peaceful contact with the Kyrex Dominion." The alien's upper eyes blinked rapidly. "You humans send 1 ship. Our intelligence indicated a fleet. Where are your other vessels?" The bridge crew exchanged surprised glances. "There are no other vessels, Admiral," Juan replied calmly. "The Pathfinder is Earth's first deep space exploration ship. We come alone, in peace." Admiral Dacko's head tilted. "This contradicts our intelligence. For decades we have intercepted your transmissions, detailed accounts of space warfare, conquest, and military tactics. We prepared accordingly." A smile tugged at Juan's lips as understanding dawned. "Those were entertainment broadcasts, Admiral. Fiction. Stories we tell for amusement, and to explore ideas." The alien's eyes widened, all 4 blinking in unison. "You create false scenarios of war, for amusement." "Not just war," Juan explained. "We create stories about everything. Love, discovery, mystery, adventure. Stories help us understand ourselves and imagine possibilities." The alien's mouthparts moved in what might have been their version of disbelief. "Your species dedicates resources to creating detailed falsehoods. For what purpose?" Juan considered how to explain human creativity to a being who found the concept alien. "We tell stories to explore possibilities, Admiral. To ask what if and prepare ourselves for many futures. It doesn't mean we seek conflict." On the screen, several other Kyrex had gathered behind Admiral Dacko, all staring with what appeared to be fascination or confusion. "Your transmission showed massive fleets, thousands of ships engaging in tactical formations," said the Admiral. "We have spent years preparing defenses against such an invasion." Taehyun suppressed a laugh. quickly turning it into a cough. Those were works of fiction, Admiral. Popular entertainment called space operas that imagine conflicts in space. Earth has only one deep space vessel, the Pathfinder, and we come seeking knowledge and friendship, not conquest. The Admiral conferred with others off-screen, speaking in rapid clicks and whistles their translation system couldn't process. If what you say is true, Admiral Dako finally said, then we have severely misunderstood humans. But this creates more questions than answers. Why would a species with only one deep space vessel venture alone into unknown territory? Juwan smiled. That's who we are, Admiral. Explorers. We seek to understand the universe and meet those who share it with us. Curious, said the Admiral. Most species develop defensive capabilities before exploration. We have defenses, Juwan said carefully. But our primary mission is peaceful contact. May we approach your station for formal introductions? The Admiral seemed to consider this request. Your single ship presents minimal threat. However, protocol demands verification of your claims. We're open to any reasonable verification, Juwan replied. Very well. You may approach to designated coordinates. A delegation will board your vessel to confirm your peaceful intent. If verified, we will welcome you properly to Kirek space. The transmission ended, and the bridge erupted in excited chatter. They bought it, exclaimed Minja. They actually thought our science fiction shows were real intelligence reports. Juwan raised a hand for quiet. They're cautious, as they should be. Let's make sure everything is perfect for their inspection team. She turned to Yuna. Prepare our cultural database for sharing. I think the Admiral might enjoy some of our actual stories. As the Pathfinder moved slowly toward the assigned coordinates, Juwan couldn't help smiling again. Humanity's first contact was based on a misunderstanding about Star Trek reruns. It wasn't how anyone had imagined this historic moment, but perhaps it was perfectly human after all. After 2 days of inspection, the Kirex delegation left the Pathfinder. The humans had shown them every part of the ship, shared their mission logs, and answered countless questions. The aliens seemed satisfied that humans weren't planning an invasion, but that didn't mean they were welcome yet. Admiral Dako's face filled the main screen on the bridge once more. The 4 eyes studied Captain Juwan and her crew with new interest. Your vessel is indeed as you described, the Admiral said. A single exploration ship, not the vanguard of a war fleet. As we told you, replied Juwan. May we proceed through Kyrek space to continue our mission? Admiral Dako's mandibles clicked together in a rhythmic pattern. Perhaps, but passage through Kyrek space must be earned. A challenge, then. The bridge crew exchanged glances. Security Chief Minja Choi moved closer to the captain's chair and spoke quietly. Captain, this smells like a trap. They spent years preparing for a human invasion. They might want to test our capabilities. Juwan gave him a small nod but kept her eyes on the screen. What challenge, Admiral? She asked, her voice steady. The view screen split to show a region of space not far from their position. It looked like chaos. Thousands of asteroids spun in unpredictable patterns. Strange energy discharges flashed between them, creating a web of blue lightning. Navigate the shattered belt, said Admiral Dako. A field of asteroids and radiation. Under simulated attack from our defense systems, no single vessel has ever succeeded. The bridge fell silent. Even from this distance, they could see the danger. The shattered belt lived up to its name, a swirling mass of rock fragments, some as small as pebbles, others larger than the Pathfinder itself. Science Officer Hiren analyzed the data flowing across her screen. The radiation would interfere with our sensors, and those energy discharges would damage our shields. Navigation Officer Taehyun shook his head. The asteroid patterns are chaotic. I can't plot a safe course through that. It would take a fleet to clear a path, muttered Minja. That's why they're challenging us to this. They know we can't succeed. Juwan stood from her chair and stepped closer to the screen. She studied the shattered belt, then looked at Admiral Deco's waiting face. "We accept," she declared. The crew stared at her in shock. "Captain," began Minja. Jiwan held up her hand. "Admiral, we will navigate your shattered belt. When do we begin the challenge?" The Kirex leader seemed surprised by her quick acceptance. "You may begin when ready. A marker buoy at the far side will confirm your successful passage. My vessels will observe from a safe distance." When the transmission ended, the bridge erupted in concerned voices. "Captain, with all due respect, that's impossible," said Taeyun. "Those asteroids move too unpredictably. Our shields won't hold against those energy discharges," added Subin from engineering. "And if they're attacking us too?" Jiwan listened calmly to their concerns. When they finished, she smiled. "I believe in this ship and this crew. We've encountered challenges before." Engineering officer Hyunjin Kang, who had remained quiet during the exchange, finally stepped forward. "Captain, the gravitational matrix we've been developing. This might be the time to test it." All eyes turned to Hyunjin. The gravitational matrix was the most experimental technology aboard the Pathfinder. It was designed to manipulate gravity fields around the ship, but they had only tested it on small objects in controlled conditions. "It's not fully tested," warned Subin. "We don't know if it can handle something this large scale." "Theory suggests it should work," countered Hyunjin. "If we can create a stable gravity well ahead of us, we could push smaller asteroids away and create a temporary path." Jiwan considered this. "Could we use it to manipulate those energy discharges too?" Hyunjin's eyes lit up. "Yes, energy follows gravitational curves. We could potentially redirect those discharges away from our shields." "It's risky," said Minja. "If it fails mid-belt, we'd be trapped." Jiwan walked around the bridge, looking each crew member in the eye. Every great discovery involves risk. The Kirex expect a fleet because that's how they think. They believe in overwhelming force. We humans have always had to find smarter ways to solve problems. She stopped at the main view screen, watching the chaotic dance of the shattered belt. "This is exactly why Earth sent us. To test new technologies, to explore, to do what no one else has done before." The crew straightened in their seats, her confidence infectious. "Prepare the ship," ordered Jiwan. "Hyunjin, work with Subin to optimize the gravitational matrix. Taehyun, calculate the best possible entry point. Hiren, I want detailed scans of those energy patterns." As the crew leaped into action, Minji approached Jiwan privately. "You know the Kirex will be watching our every move, learning our capabilities," he said quietly. Jiwan nodded. "Yes, but sometimes the best diplomacy is to earn respect. The Kirex expect a fleet. Let's show them what one human ship can do." 6 hours later, the Pathfinder approached the edge of the shattered belt. Through the view screen, they could see at least 20 Kirex vessels positioned at a safe distance to observe. Hyunjin stood at his console, fingers hovering over the gravitational matrix controls. "Matrix charged and ready, Captain. It's never been tested at this scale, but calculations suggest it should work." Jiwan took her seat in the command chair and fastened the safety harness. All around her, the crew did the same. "Open a channel to Admiral Deco," she ordered. The alien's face appeared on screen. "You proceed with the challenge." "A bold choice, Captain." Jiwan smiled. "Humans specialize in bold choices, Admiral. We're ready to begin." She ended the transmission and faced forward. The shattered belt filled the view screen, a deadly maze waiting for them. "Take us in, Taehyun. Hyunjin, activate the gravitational matrix on my mark." The Pathfinder moved forward, toward a challenge no single ship had ever survived. The Pathfinder hovered at the edge of the shattered belt. Through the view screen, the crew could see a chaotic field of spinning rocks, some as small as pebbles, others larger than their ship. Blue lightning crackled between the asteroids, creating webs of deadly energy. "Final systems check," Captain Jiwan ordered, her voice calm despite the danger ahead. "Shields at maximum," reported Subin from engineering. "Gravitational matrix charged and ready," added Hyunjin, his fingers steady over the controls of the experimental system. "Simulated attack protocols from the Kerex will begin once we enter the belt," warned Minjae at security. "Expect weapons locks and targeting data." Captain Juan nodded and looked at each crew member on the bridge. They were ready. "Take us in, Taeyun." Quarter impulse. The Pathfinder glided forward into the asteroid field as thousands of Kerex ships watched from a safe distance. Almost immediately, the ship shuddered as invisible forces pulled at it from multiple directions. Warning alarms blared across every console. Red lights flashed throughout the bridge. "Gravitational eddies stronger than expected," shouted Hiron, struggling to make sense of her readings. "The asteroids are creating overlapping gravity wells." The ship lurched violently to starboard. A crew member was thrown from her seat despite the safety harness. "Conventional navigation failing," Taeyun reported, his fingers flying across his console as he tried to compensate. "Too many variables. I can't plot a safe course." Another violent shake rocked the ship. A support beam near the science station cracked. "Shields at 72% and dropping," called Subin. "Those energy discharges are stronger than our scans showed." Captain Juan gripped her chair arms but remained focused. "Activate the gravitational matrix," she ordered. Hyunjin took a deep breath and engaged the experimental system. A low hum filled the ship as the gravitational matrix came online. On the main screen, a faint blue field appeared around the Pathfinder, extending outward like a bubble. "Matrix stable," Hyunjin reported. "Power flow nominal." "Now, Hyunjin," said Captain Juan, "show us what this system can do." Hyunjin adjusted the controls carefully. The gravitational matrix began to pulse, sending out waves of manipulated gravity. Ahead of the ship, smaller asteroids shifted in their paths, gently pushed aside to create a narrow corridor. "It's working," exclaimed Taeyun. "I have a navigable path." The Pathfinder moved forward, following the corridor created by the gravitational matrix. When an energy discharge approached, Hyunjin adjusted the field, causing the lightning to curve around their shields rather than strike them directly. "Amazing," whispered Yuna. "We're bending space itself." As they gained confidence, Hyunjin grew bolder with the controls. He created a gravitational wave ahead of the ship, then another behind it. The Pathfinder began to ride these waves like a surfer, using the momentum of one gravity well to propel them toward the next. "The Kerex are transmitting among themselves," Yunha reported, listening through her earpiece. "They seem stunned. They've never seen technology like this." The ship's speed increased as they mastered the technique. What had seemed impossible minutes ago was now working. They were nearly halfway through the belt. Then came the simulated attacks. Targeting locks appeared on their sensors as the Kerex defense systems activated. Harmless energy pulses designed to mimic weapons fire streaked past the ship. "Evading simulated fire," Taeyun called out, adding these new variables to his calculations. Hyunjin adjusted the gravitational matrix again, creating small distortions that made the Pathfinder appear to jump position slightly, confusing the targeting systems. The simulated weapons fire began to miss more often. "We might actually make it," said Minjae, allowing himself a small smile. That's when everything changed. Every alert on the bridge screamed at once. The main view screen shifted to show a massive object entering the far side of the asteroid field. A comet, its icy tail stretching behind it for kilometers. "Where did that come from?" demanded Captain Juan. "It was hidden behind that large asteroid cluster," Hiron explained frantically. "Its trajectory was masked by the gravitational distortions." "Row comet on collision course," shouted Taeyun, his face pale as he calculated its path. "Current trajectory will take it straight through the field. And," he paused, looking up with horror, "it'll hit the main Kerex observation vessel in 3 minutes." The bridge fell silent for a second as everyone realized what this meant. The comet was real, not part of the simulation. The Kirex vessel carried hundreds of alien observers, positioned where they thought it was safe. "They can't move fast enough to evade," said Minjay, checking the Kirex ship specifications. "Their engines take too long to power up from standby mode." Captain Juan didn't hesitate. "Plot an intercept course. We'll use the fusion pulse to divert it." The crew stared at her. "The fusion pulse is designed for emergency propulsion," argued Subin. "Not for moving comets." "Theory suggests it could work," countered Hiren quickly. "A properly timed pulse could alter the comet's trajectory just enough to miss the Kirex vessel." "Captain," protested Minja, standing from his station. "That'll expose our starboard engines to the comet's debris field. We could lose propulsion entirely. We'd be stranded in the belt." Captain Juan met his gaze steadily. "Better us than them," she replied. "Execute the maneuver." Minjay hesitated only a moment longer, then nodded sharply and returned to his station. "Plotting intercept," called Taehyun. "We need to thread between those two large asteroids to reach the optimal position." "Diverting all available power to the fusion pulse system," said Subin. "Engineering teams bracing for impact." Hyunjin shifted the gravitational matrix to its maximum setting, creating a path through the densest part of the asteroid field. The Pathfinder shot forward, moving faster than should have been possible in such chaotic conditions. "Kirex vessel is hailing us," reported Yuna. "They want to know what we're doing." "Tell them to prepare for evasive action if our plan fails," ordered Captain Juan. "Time to intercept." 45 seconds, replied Taehyun. "We'll reach position just before the comet." The Pathfinder raced through the asteroid field, riding gravity waves between spinning rocks and energy discharges. The crew worked in perfect coordination, each person focused entirely on their task. "Approaching position," called Taehyun. 15 seconds to comet intercept. Captain Juan took a deep breath. "Prepare fusion pulse." "On my mark." The ship slid into position directly in the comet's path. Through the view screen, they could see its massive form approaching, ice and rock gleaming in the starlight. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The Pathfinder positioned itself between the massive comet and the Kirex observation vessels. Through the view screen, Captain Juan could see the comet growing larger by the second, its icy surface reflecting the starlight. Behind it lay the Kirex flagship, still unaware of the danger heading toward them. "Fusion pulse charge," reported Subin from engineering. "But Captain, this has never been tested in field conditions." "We have no choice," replied Juan. "Fire on my mark." The bridge crew held their breath as Taehyun counted down. "Comet intercept in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire," ordered Juan. A blinding blue light erupted from the Pathfinder's hull as the experimental fusion pulse activated. The energy burst struck the approaching comet dead center. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then slowly, the massive ice ball began to shift its course. "It's working," exclaimed Hiren, watching her sensors. "The comet's trajectory is changing." But their victory was short-lived. The comet's outer layer shattered from the impact, sending chunks of ice and rock flying in all directions. A massive wave of debris headed straight for the Pathfinder. "Brace for impact," shouted Juan. The debris struck the starboard section of the ship with tremendous force. The Pathfinder spun violently, throwing crew members against their safety harnesses. Sparks flew from consoles, and emergency lights flashed throughout the bridge. "Damage report," called Juan when the ship finally stopped spinning. "Engines 3 and 4 offline," reported Hyunjin, wiping blood from a cut on his forehead. "Stabilizers failing. We're drifting." Subin's voice came through the comm system, sounding strained. "Engineering to bridge. The gravitational matrix is offline. Power systems damaged on decks 5 through 8. Juan looked at the view screen, which flickered with static but still showed their position. The comet had indeed changed course, and was now passing safely between the Kirex vessels. Their mission was successful, but at a heavy cost. "Can we restore engine power?" asked Juan. "Not without external repairs," replied Subin. "We're stuck here." Being stranded in the shattered belt meant certain death. The constant bombardment of asteroids and energy discharges would eventually overwhelm their failing shields. "Captain," called Yuna suddenly, "we're being hailed by the Kerex flagship." Juan straightened in her chair, trying to look composed despite the chaos around her. On screen, Admiral Daco's face appeared, 4 eyes blinking rapidly as he took in the damaged state of the Pathfinder's bridge. "Captain Park," said the Admiral, his voice lacking its usual coldness, "our sensors detected what you did. The comet would have destroyed our observation vessel." Juan nodded. "We couldn't let that happen, Admiral." "Your vessel requires assistance," stated Admiral Daco. "We will tow you to our station for repairs." Before Juan could respond, the ship shuddered again. Through the view screen, they could see a pale green beam connecting them to the Kerex flagship. "They locked a tractor beam on us," reported Minja, sounding suspicious. "Could be a trap." But Juan shook her head. "No, I think it's exactly what the Admiral said. Assistance." The journey back through the shattered belt was much easier with the Kerex flagship pulling them. Once clear of the asteroid field, they were escorted to the massive station they had first encountered. As the Pathfinder docked at the station, Juan wondered what reception awaited them. Would the Kerex see their damaged state as an opportunity to learn human technology secrets, or would they honor the sacrifice the humans had made? The answer came sooner than expected. When the airlock opened, Admiral Daco himself stood waiting with a delegation of Kerex officials. "Captain Park," he said, bowing slightly, "the Kerex Dominion welcomes you properly now. Your ship and crew will receive our full assistance in repairs." True to his word, over the next several days, Kerex engineers worked alongside human technicians to repair the Pathfinder. What might have taken months for the humans alone was accomplished in less than a week with Kerex technology. During this time, something unexpected happened. As the two species worked together, cultural exchange flourished naturally. The Kerex were particularly fascinated by Earth's literature, music, and art that the humans shared from their databases. "You create stories about things that never happened," said a Kerex engineer named Lorecht to Hunjin as they repaired the gravitational matrix together. "Why?" "To imagine what could be," replied Hunjin. "Every invention begins as a story someone tells themselves about what might be possible." On the 5th day of repairs, Admiral Daco invited Captain Juan to share a meal in the station's observation dome. As they ate foods from both worlds, they watched the stars together. "Your species accomplishes so much with so little," Admiral Daco told Juan, gesturing toward the repaired Pathfinder visible through the window. "We thought your stories of overcoming superior forces were mere fantasy, propaganda to frighten others." Juan smiled. "Sometimes the stories we tell become the futures we create." The Admiral considered this. "When we intercepted your transmissions, we saw tales of humans facing overwhelming odds and finding ways to prevail. We prepared for an enemy who would use clever tactics and unpredictable strategies. Instead, you got one ship asking for peaceful passage," said Juan. "One ship that did what our scientists claimed was impossible," corrected the Admiral. "One ship that risked destruction to save lives that were not their own." He paused. Perhaps the stories were not so far from truth after all. Later that evening, Juan walked through the station's central plaza, now filled with humans and Kerex talking, sharing, and learning from each other. What had begun as a challenge had become something much more valuable: understanding. Engineer Subin approached her with a Kerex technical officer. "Captain, you won't believe this. They're offering to help us upgrade our shield systems. Technology they've never shared with any species before." Juan raised an eyebrow. "Why would they do that?" The Kerex officer clicked his mandibles. "Admiral Daco says if humans can accomplish this much with one ship, he would rather have you as allies than potential enemies." Juan looked around at the unexpected alliance forming around her. The mission to explore and make peaceful contact had succeeded, though not in any way they could have predicted. Sometimes, she murmured to herself, the stories we tell really do become the futures we create. Captain Juan Park adjusted the collar of her dress uniform as she stood outside the Grand Assembly Hall of the Kyrex station. After 2 weeks of repairs, cultural exchange, and diplomatic meetings, today would mark the official conclusion of their unexpected encounter with the Kyrex Dominion. Nervous? Asked Minjay, who stood beside her in his own formal attire. A little, admitted Juan. I didn't expect our first contact mission to include a formal ceremony with the ruling council of half the galaxy. The massive doors slid open, revealing a circular chamber larger than the entire bridge of the Pathfinder. Hundreds of Kyrex representatives filled the tiered seating that rose from the central floor. Their scaled skin shimmered in shades of blue and green under the soft lighting. The human delegation may enter, announced a Kyrex official. Juan led her crew into the chamber, walking to the center where Admiral Deco waited. The Admiral looked different today, wearing ceremonial armor with glowing symbols that marked his high rank. When all were assembled, a hush fell over the chamber. From an elevated platform, 5 elderly Kyrex entered. Their scales had faded to pale blue with age, and they moved slowly but with obvious authority. The High Council, whispered Yuna, who had spent the most time studying Kyrex culture during their stay. Admiral Deco stepped forward and addressed the assembly. Honored Council, representatives of the Kyrex Dominion, I present Captain Juan Park and the crew of the Earth vessel Pathfinder. The lead council member studied the humans with ancient eyes. We have reviewed the records of your journey through the Shattered Belt and your actions to save our observation vessel. We have examined your ship and spoken with your crew. Juan felt a flutter of anxiety. The High Council had final say on all matters in Kyrex space. Their decision today would determine humanity's relationship with this powerful civilization for generations to come. Admiral Deco stood tall. The Council has reached a decision, he announced, his voice carrying throughout the vast chamber. The human vessel Pathfinder and all future human ships are granted passage rights through Kyrex space. A moment of stunned silence was followed by applause that erupted from both species. Some of the younger Kyrex even stamped their feet in approval, creating a thunderous rhythm. Furthermore, continued the Admiral when the noise subsided, Earth is recognized as a sovereign power and invited to establish formal diplomatic relations with the Dominion. Juan felt Kunjin grip her arm in excitement. This was beyond their wildest hopes for the mission. We prepared for war, Deco continued, looking directly at Juan now, because we misunderstood. We thought your stories of conflict reflected your true nature. Now we understand they reflect your drive to overcome challenges. The lead council member stepped forward, moving with surprising grace for one so ancient. For 300 cycles, the Kyrex have judged other species by their military might. We prepared defenses against you based on this understanding. The old alien tilted his head, studying the humans with genuine curiosity. But you have shown us something new. One ship accomplished what our scientists said would require a fleet, not through superior firepower, but through innovation and courage. Juan saw her moment and stepped forward. The chamber fell silent again. On behalf of humanity, we thank you, she said, her voice steady and clear. We look forward to learning from the Kyrex and sharing what we know. She paused, then added, humans have a saying. Actions speak louder than words. We hope our actions have shown our true intentions better than any message could. The lead council member made a gesture that Yuna had told her was a sign of respect among the Kyrex. They have indeed, Captain Park. The ceremony concluded with an exchange of gifts. The Kyrex presented the humans with data crystals containing star charts for safe passage through their territory. In return, Juan offered a collection of Earth's greatest literary works, music, and art. That evening, a celebration was held in the station's central plaza. Humans and Kyrex mingled, sharing food, drinks, and stories. Admiral Deco approached Juan as she watched her crew talking animatedly with their new allies. "Your ship will depart tomorrow," he asked. Juan nodded. "We have a mission to complete, many more stars to explore." "You will carry upgraded systems," said the Admiral. "Our engineers have enhanced your shields, sensors, and the gravitational matrix. Consider it payment for saving our observation vessel." "That wasn't necessary," said Juan. "We would have done the same for anyone." The Admiral's mandibles clicked in what she now recognized as amusement. "That is precisely why we chose to help you, Captain. Such thinking is rare in this galaxy." 7 days later, the Pathfinder prepared to leave the Kirek station. Its hull gleamed with new repairs, and inside, its systems had been enhanced far beyond Earth's current technology. As the ship undocked, Admiral Deco's face appeared on the view screen one last time. "Safe journey, Pathfinder," he said. "When you return to Earth, tell them the Kirek's Dominion extends its hand in friendship." "We will, Admiral," promised Juan. "And tell your people we'll be sending more ships soon. Peaceful ones, just like this one." "We will welcome them," said the Admiral. "Though I doubt any will surprise us quite as much as you did." As the Pathfinder moved away from the station, Juan knew that messages were already spreading across the galaxy. A new species had emerged from their home system, not with overwhelming numbers or superior firepower, but with something perhaps more valuable: creativity, adaptability, and the courage to risk everything to save even those who had been prepared to be enemies. In the vast reaches of space, civilizations who had heard rumors of humanity watched with new interest. The aliens had waited for a fleet, but one human ship was all it took. The end.